Welcome back to Joe Stonner Boxing. Some sad news today. The 1980s middleweight Mark Kaylor passed away. He was 64 years of age. If you are of a certain age, like I am, you will have followed most of Kaylor's career. He turned pro in 1980, which is roughly the time when I started to sort of understand what I was watching with boxing. I'd watched boxing when I was as young as, about 10, but you don't necessarily know what you're watching. But the 80s was definitely my, educational period where I started to read a lot about boxing. And Kaylor was on the scene. He was a very good domestic level middleweight. And, he was just a very, very good fighter, a very good fighter. He had several punts at the EBU title, but never actually won it. I think he fought for the EBU title about 4 times, something like that. And he won eliminators for the British title, if I remember rightly. And he was British and Commonwealth middleweight champ. He stopped Roy Gums in 5 rounds. That would have been about 83, and when he was a big starlet being groomed for, the superstardom thing. But he couldn't quite get that EBU belt. That's what I always remember him for. I know that, let me see if I can do this off memory. I know that he fought Harold Graham. Was that for the British or the European? It might have been the EBU title. He got completely outclassed by Harold Graham in 86 and stopped in 8 rounds. I think he was pulled out after 8 rounds by the corner. He fought, I think he fought Tom Collins and got down about 9 rounds, but that was up at light heavyweight. Tom Collins actually had an unwarranted WBC title fight at light heavyweight and just quit after a couple of rounds. It was a very bad performance by Collins, but he did win that EBU light heavy title and stopped Kaylor in 9, I think. He also fought for the super middleweight EBU title against Mauro Galvano, who would go on to fight Nigel Benn, I think. Or was it Benn and Eubank? One of them or both of them, I think. And finally, in his final fight, actually, he was still at super middleweight. He boxed the late James Cook, who passed away earlier this year, I think, also, and got stopped in 6. So a British and Commonwealth champion, yes. Good level. Couldn't quite get up to that EBU title thing. Is mostly known as being was mostly known for being a middleweight. He fought Tony Sibson and took Sibson the distance. Sibson from Leicester, very big left hook on the man. Fought Marvin Hagler, got stopped in 6 rounds. But I think the European title was on the line there, and that was British, Commonwealth and European. But that was at middleweight, which was really Kaylor's optimum weight. Super middle, maybe. Light heavy, had no business being in with Tom Collins. But unfortunately, a lot of people, despite these achievements and near misses from Kaylor, will remember him for a fight that happened in 1985. It was in November. It might even be, I can't remember the exact date, but it was November 1985. So we're talking, 40 years ago. And it was at Wembley Arena, and I remember it vividly. I didn't go to it because I was to be honest with you, I was too afraid to go to it, because it was against Errol Christie, who was another starlet being brought along. So you had this crossroads clash between 2 guys. Kaylor had already been beaten by Sibson. He'd also been knocked out by Buster Drayton, who would go on to win the IBF light middleweight title. Was a very, very good fighter, a sort of journeyman turned world champ, kind of like Freddie Pendleton. Buster Drayton and Freddie Pendleton, lots of losses on their record, but really good fighters who ended up with world belts. And they brought him over, Drayton, as fodder for Kaylor, and Kaylor got chinned in 7 rounds. So Kaylor was on the comeback, you could say, after those 2 defeats to Drayton and Sibson. Christie, the big amateur star, massive amateur star, he had 1 defeat on his record at the time, which I think was to Jose Sayes, the Belgian fighter, who, again, brought over by, I think Mickey Duff brought him over. Mickey Duff very rarely made mistakes, but he made one there because Jose Sayes chinned Christie, who was always very chinny, chinned him in a round. And that was Christie's first defeat, the only defeat on his record at the time. And Christie was, even though he had the reputation of being chinny, because of his glittering amateur career, he was sort of favoured over Kaylor. But there was an awful lot of racism, really nasty racism going on during the build-up of that fight. And it was eliminated for the British title. It was won by Kaylor in 8 rounds. Kaylor was on the floor, though. I know there were multi-knockdowns. I think Kaylor was on the floor. Was it first? Then Christie went on the floor. It was all very sort of, one of those pendulum fights where they're both on the deck. But the one that persevered and prevailed was Kaylor with a knockout. I always remember Christie sort of crawling towards the ropes or this corner to pull himself up. He didn't make it. But there was an awful lot of racism, nasty, National Front, British movement. Google them if you don't know who they are. They're the sort of precursor to the sort of neo-Nazi thing that you still see a bit of today. Very nasty, sort of bad blood. Those were nasty days, very nasty days, as far as the old racism went, especially if you're in one of the big cities like London, which I lived in. I'm from there. But I think Kaylor and Christie, they sort of made up afterwards, and they were trying to put the lid on all the nastiness because violence could have erupted. I think they had a little roll around on the cobbles beforehand as well. Someone got their suit ripped or something. I seem to remember that. But that was I didn't want. There's no way on earth I would have gone to that fight. I think at the time I would have been. It was 1995. I'd have been about 18. I was like, no, thanks. I've been on a few sort of Rock Against Racism marches when I was about 16, 17. They were scary places to be. You see all them National Front skinheads. You're like, fuck this. They're grown men and I'm like a scrawny kid. But so no, I wasn't going to go to that one. But anyway, I'm digressing here. Let's get back to Kaylor. Kaylor, yeah, I mean, as I say, a very, very good British Commonwealth level fighter who fought for the European, middleweight, super middleweight and light heavyweight European title. I think it was a total of 4 times maybe. Different weights, couldn't quite get that EBU belt, but did finish with a pretty decent record, 40 wins with 34 KOs, seven defeats with 4 stoppages and a draw. He was tall for the middleweight. He was about 6'2", 6'1", 6'2", tall guy for middleweight. Struggled with the 160 poundage a bit. Don't forget the super middleweight division was only coming into its own, which is probably why Kaylor jumped up to light heavy to fight Tom Collins. And Tom Collins could fight a bit. I mean, he fought Dennis Andrews several times and I think beat Andrews in one of their fights. And like I say, he one of the super middleweight EBU fights that he lost was to Mauro Galvano, who, I know he fought. I'm sure he fought one of them. Was it Ben? Or if he fought Ben, he did fight Ben. Yes, he did fight Ben. Because I think he retired after a few rounds. Ben just sort of bounced him all over the place. I think he cut him. And I think did he fight Ben twice or did he fight Ben once and Eubank once? I really should have looked this up before I started doing the video, but I'll have a look. Basically what I'm saying is Mauro Galvano was a good super middleweight champ, EBU champ, and away from home, Kaylor took him the distance, but just couldn't quite get that EBU belt, try as he might. And as an amateur, Kaylor had a pretty good amateur pedigree. He won the ABAs. He represented Britain in 1980 was the Montreal Olympics. Didn't win a medal, but he had that pedigree, and so like Christie had a very illustrious. Errol Christie had a very illustrious amateur career. They were both being brought along as stars. And so I suppose it was inevitable they clashed in that 1985 fight, but it was such a shame that the whole thing was overshadowed by all this sort of racist bullshit, this nastiness. But yeah, that's Mark Kaylor for you. Very sad to see his demise. But, you know, we're all going to the same place, aren't we? So rest in peace, Mark Kaylor. Thanks for some good memories. You're a good fighter, mate. And he was billed from Canning Town, from in East End of London. But I think he came from Essex originally. Yeah, he came from somewhere in Essex. I can't remember exactly where. But yeah, thanks a lot, mate. You did your best. You gave it your all. All any fighter can do is give their all. And whenever you watch Mark Kaylor, you knew you were going to get your money's worth, win, lose, or draw. So rest in peace, Mark Kaylor, and thanks for the memories. If you've got any memories of Mark, please leave them below. Maybe you saw him fight. If so, who against? Yeah, leave your comments below. I'd love to read them. And thanks for watching the video. Please hit the like button if you like the video, and also subscribe to the channel if you do. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll catch you later. Bye for now.